Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Index podcast, where we come together every couple of weeks to discuss on-chain data, chart crimes, and metrics that move the crypto industry. Today, I have with me Hildoby, resident data house elf at Dragonfly, Danning, on-chain sleuth at Pantera Capital.
Hi.
I missed the chief there. Sorry about that. Of course. Donna, L2 sheriff at L2 beat.
Hi.
And I am Boxer, and I am the community powers at Dune. Before we get into it, nothing we say here should be relied upon as legal, financial, investment, tax, or even life advice. We're acting independently of our respective professional roles. And with that, today we have Donnoh, Luca with us. Sorry for butchering your name if I did. To talk about a new data set on Interop that L2 Beat has been working on, and Luca specifically has been working on. But first of all, Luca, who are you? How did you get into crypto? Maybe just give us a short introduction before so our listeners can get familiar with you.
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me. I'm Luca. I'm head of research at Altobit. If people are not familiar with Altobit, we do metrics and risk assessments for the Alto space and rollups. We've been doing this for 4 years or more, since the very beginning of the rollup-centric roadmap. We've been maintaining the stages framework, and yeah, we discuss and we track everything that has to do with L2s, including data availability layers that they might use, ZK projects, ZK verifiers, anything that has to do with proof systems, and yeah, data, lots of data. So regarding how I got into crypto, like I started when I was in high school. I got nerd sniped by some blockchain that was doing like a DAG-based blockchain, only because at the time I was studying graphs in high school. So I was like interested in this project just because it was an application of the thing that I was studying at the time. It was a Nano, I think, one of the first like Bitcoin killers. And then yeah, I got to follow a little bit of that blockchain, and then I got into Ethereum through NFTs in 2019 or 2020, like when NFTs were cool. Before apes and
Which one?
I was doing NFTs actually. I had a couple of collections on art blocks, super rare, like yeah, the actual NFT galleries. But that's like my alt identity. So let's not talk about that. Yeah, I was doing some generative artworks at the time, up until I hit. Like I remember every time in 2020, every time there was a super cool collection that was dropping on Ethereum, the gas was spiking. Like people were like spending $100-$200 on a failed transaction to mint something. That's when I got interested in L2s and scaling solutions, because like it was super unsustainable at this rate that every time there was something, like, and you could feel it. Maybe you had to do anything else with the chain and the gas was like super high and you were like, oh my god, what's happening right now during the chain? And I remember I was friends with the founder of Artblocks, Snowfro, at the time, and I was trying to convince him. There were just a few L2s at the time, maybe Optimism and Arbitrum. I was trying to convince him, why don't you deploy in one of the L2s? Like people would save so much money. And he was like, yeah, but I don't really trust them. Like I know Ethereum is safe. I don't know what's going on with these projects. Like these things are new. So I got interested a little bit in those projects. I wrote my bachelor thesis at university on rollups. I did a comparison between Optimism and Starknet at the time, and then L2Bit saw it because I shared it on Twitter, and yeah, that's how I got into L2Bit.
With all of that, what have you been working on most recently? Like kind of like what's your last big project?
So we've been working on this new feature that we just launched today at the time of the recording. We've been working on this since September, October. It was quite a bit of work. In parallel, I'm also working on native rollups. This is also the other big track that I'm doing. This is an EAP 8079. And this is like a long-term thing because there is a tech dependency on ZK proving L1. I need to have ZK proofs on L1 to enable native rollups. So I'm following the ZKVM team at the Ethereum Foundation. I'm trying to coordinate with the L1 clients, L1 core devs on how to implement this, and with the L2s whether they're interested or not on native rollups. And yeah.
Can you give a quick rundown on what that EAP for native rollups would enable?
Yeah, so the TLDR is if L1 moves to ZK proving execution, basically what it means is that the execution layer basically becomes a ZK rollup, if you think about it. L1 would post to blobs in the same way that rollups do, and ZK proves execution in the same way that ZK rollups do. So to me, it quacks and talks like a rollup, so it would become a rollup. And the idea is, if L1 clients are modified to be able to ZK verify ZK proofs, then verifying proofs for the L1 execution environment or for an L2 execution environment is basically the same. It's just one proof. So the idea is you expose the same infrastructure that L1 uses for itself to verify ZK proofs, but with arbitrary pre and post state roots. And this is decided by some smart contracts. So you expose the infrastructure to a precompile. A smart contract can just call it with the inputs that they care about. And the clients would just verify the proofs as they do for L1.
All right, okay.
And the advantage would be that the rollups don't need to deploy their own proof system. They just reuse what Ethereum already has. They have client diversity by default. I have a proof of concept of this. Optimism proof system is 10,000 lines of code. My native rollup implementation of it is 60 lines, 60, including comments and spaces.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, hopefully this will simplify the projects a little bit.
What would you say is the percentage chance that this eventually gets merged?
I think it really depends on how simple we can make it. I'm pretty confident that the implementation is simple enough because it reuses most of the things. What I'm worried about is testing, because this would allow some customization on top of what L1 does. You could have custom sequencing, custom gas tokens, custom gas limits, a lot of things that are custom that we don't test for L1. So my worry is that within some customization, the feature could break. So it really depends, on testing difficulties. One thing that we could do is, for example, say these are the safe values that we consider for safe for L1, that we use for L1. If you can use this, we guarantee that these are safes. If you go up, above these values, then if it breaks, it's on you.
Which is fair.
For example.
Quick clarification. How is native rollup different from based rollup? I know it was a classic question people were confused with.
Yeah.
Also, is based rollup dead now, I guess?
So the thing that based rollups and native rollups have in common is that it comes from Justin Drake. But apart from that, there's a little intersection in the sense that being based has to do with sequencing, how you sequence, so who can produce blocks. And native rollups has to do with how you prove the state. And the two things are orthogonal. You can be based and native, or single sequence and native, based and non-native. You have the all fourth options. But the idea is, if you're a rollup and you're both based and native, you're basically the same as Ethereum. You can almost consider yourself a shard of Ethereum in the classic terminology, classic definition of sharding. How, for example, Near is sharded.
Got it. And I mean, this is another follow-up. I feel like you were talking about native rollup, and we mentioned base rollup, but Is there a lot of momentum right now from different L2s that trying to be native rollup, or like how much traction are there?
So my conversations with some of the L2s is that it's very annoying to having to maintain a proof system for some of them. Or like it's annoying, but also costly. It's complicated. There are bugs, and the sad truth about rollups is that you, like compared to an Altel-1, for example, is that you have this additional cost of a proof system that Altel-1s don't have. You need to hire engineers and people that understand ZK or optimistic proof systems. You need people to maintain it and upgrade if you want to upgrade, which is costly. And things break very often. Like ZK-Sync had a couple of emergency upgrades recently. Scroll had one as well because of a bug in ZK. Optimism proof system, the one that is used by OPMainnet, Base, Unichain, and family, it was broken by the L1 upgrade, which is insane. Like Pectra introduced the gas limit for single transactions, right? And inside the optimistic proof system, when you do lib bisection during the last step, you need to provide very large preimages to prove against hashes. And these preimages can be larger than the gas limit that was introduced in Pectra, right? And the Ethereum Foundation did some historical analysis on the transactions that were big, and basically all of them were super weird cases or maybe contract deployments. But of course, by doing an historical analysis, you never notice that you would break optimistic proof systems because a challenge basically never happens as long as they work, right? So I guess they missed this case, or maybe there was some miscommunication because I think they talked with the L2s about this. In any case, OP people like Optimism and other developers noticed a bit late that this was the case, and they had to rush to fix the proof system, right? So, and they got super annoyed about this, and I understand, things break by themselves already, but if L1, if an L1 upgrade breaks your stuff, it's even more annoying, right? So some of these projects are interested in becoming native just because it simplifies a lot all of this. Since things break, you want to have a proof system because you want to be more decentralized, but since thing breaks, you need to have security councils that can upgrade that actually make you more centralized than Altel ones in many cases, right? So there are a lot of the Altel ones trying to roast L2s because they have security councils, these multisigs that can upgrade, and it kind of makes sense as an argument, right? So I'm sure that a lot of L2s are frustrated about this, and if they could simplify, they would simplify. So that's the value proposition of native rollups.
But then what's the value proposition of each independent rollup if they all share the same kind of technology at the end of the day?
But yeah, that's a good point. So, and it kind of follows with the recent conversations about customization, and you should not do the same things, right?
Yeah.
So the disadvantage of being native is that you cannot modify the VM. You cannot add custom precompiles, you cannot add custom opcodes. At least right now, we have, there is a willing to try to explore these features, but it's complicated. I'm not super confident that we would do this, at least in the first phase. There are still things that you can customize. So you can customize sequencing, which a lot of L2s want. You can have custom gas tokens. There is a way to do this without modifying the execution environment, which is super cool. You can collect the base fee and redirect the base fee and the tips, the priority fees, to whatever you like the most. The Ethereum Foundation would love to collect the base fees for themselves, but they cannot because L1 has to be neutral. What the Ethereum Foundation could do is launch a native rollup that collects the base fee and to pay people, right? For example. But in any case, you might be opinionated in the things that you want to fund yourself, and this is for example, a way in which a rollup can differentiate from L1, right? Base is basically identical to L1 for all intents and purposes, but still has a lot of distribution, and it decides where to redirect funding, which is quite interesting. But yes, like this is the main downside. Like you cannot customize many things.
I mean, also, if the tech tree kind of advances to that point and Ethereum just runs on the same, like Ethereum mainnet just runs on the same stack as all of these native rollups, then the fee disparity between like currently, or like for a long time, it was like Base was a lot cheaper than Ethereum. And like the costs would probably like approximately the same if like everyone kind of like uses the same native rollup technology. Is that like a correct understanding of that?
I mean, it's likely. Like if an L2, I mean, it depends. So, like for example, for L1, we need to cap the gas limit because we want to have provers that are not too expensive. Like we need we don't want to centralize provers too much. Like we expect some centralization, but we have, for example, some megawatt limits in the prover and the gas limit. But on L2 can go way beyond that, for example. Can still be faster, but still like the gap would be closer, yeah.
Okay, that was a side quest that we had not foreseen. We want to talk about Interop, but I guess to close this out as the sheriff of the L2s, what do you think of the roadmap change of like, I don't know, Vitalik has like very prominently said like, hey, maybe the L2 roadmap was a mistake, and like all like there's been a lot of recent conversations that I don't fully need to recap or can recap, but maybe just like what's your hot take on this situation, and what maybe is the future that you foresee now kind of playing out?
So we've been saying this for a long time, that L2s are not scaling Ethereum until they get to stage 2. So like the thing that was different compared to when we started with the rollup-centric roadmap is that we expected these rollups to move to stage 2 way faster than they actually did. And there are good reasons why they didn't. Like the tech is complicated. It's probably unsafe to move to stage 2 at this point. So since this took away much more time than expected, it makes sense to like drop the rollup-centric roadmap as a way to scale L1 and actually scale L1 itself, right? Because this was the idea. Like I remember in 2020, 2021, the conversation was Ethereum will just reduce itself to settlement, like settling proofs, and that's it. No transactions, no user-facing applications. And you know, this is not working clearly. But like the reason why rollups exist, L2s exist today, is because you want to have your own blockchain that has the best bridge possible to Ethereum. And this is like something that you can get only with rollups. So like even if your rollup is not meant to scale Ethereum, it still makes sense as long as you want to have a secure bridge to Ethereum.
Also, quickly making a note, what is stage 0, 1, 2 for rollups?
Yeah, so stages are measure of decentralization. So if you're stage 0, you're basically controlled by a single entity. If you're stage 2, you're decentralized. You have some hard guarantees on the like decentralization properties of your system. No single actor can prevent you to exit, for example. You have unconditional exit window. If you're stage 1, you're something in the middle. There is a security council that is well defined. I will not go into the details, but this is the TLDR. But the misconception about stages is that stages do not represent security. Like if the system is buggy or like can have bugs, it's better to have a security council that can protect you from those bugs rather than being stage 2. And then if something bad happens, there's a bug, then all funds are screwed, right? So it's not that projects are not going to stage 2 because they're evil. It's just there might be some like actual security concerns still.
The main thing that's missing for current stage 1 rollups to move into stage 2 is the exit window, from what I'm getting.
In stage 1, the only entity that can compromise exit windows is the security council. And we have a minority, like a honest minority assumption, which means just a few actors needs to be honest in the security council to allow for this exit window to happen. For stage 0, there's like no guarantee. And for stage 2, no one can stop you from exiting the system.
Do you see any stage 2 rollup on the near horizon?
Aztec will be one of the next ones that will be, I mean, We still need to do the reviews. So like, I hope everything will be okay. But we had a lot of conversations with them. We'll be following other projects for a while. And my understanding of the system is that they will deploy immutable contracts, fully immutable. So if there is a bug, people are screwed, which is super scary, but also like very brave.
Okay, very cool.
All right. With this short excursion into general L2 land, maybe let's look at the actual interop data. So I maybe just high level, can you describe the data? And then afterwards we can probably dive into the dashboard. But I think first kind of like talking about it and like the goals of this research, maybe that would be a good starting point.
Yeah, so my take is that because of Altobit, because of us, people over fixated on the risks of the L2s, of the L2 bridges. Like people are very much aware of all the problems that projects can have if they don't have force transactions, or like if the bridge are upgradable, if they're not stage 2, you know, stuff like this. But people have zero idea about the security of bridges outside of the L2s. Like there were these recent announcements that Solana made that you can, for example, bridge the Stark token to Solana or the Zora token to Solana, right? But like, how are those tokens bridged in the first place? Like, who is minting these tokens on Solana? Like, who controls this token, right? And while we're very familiar with what happens on an L2, between like Alt L1s, it's not very obvious. Not many people are talking about this. So our idea is like to make people appreciate more the advantages of being an L2 and building a rollup bridge, which is again complicated, as I said many times. But like how to make them believe that this is worth it, you will need to look at the way that funds are moved between Alt L1s or like between L1s, which is bad. In many cases, it's really bad. So this is the motivation. We started looking into the top cross-chain bridges that exist. We started writing a lot of code because all the data that we get is from like on-chain data. We don't use APIs or anything like many other projects do, because we don't trust necessarily. We don't want to have dependencies on them. And so it took a while to understand how these projects work, what events they emit, how to consume these events, how to match events on different chains. And with the only exception of Relay, Relay is this bridge that to bridge funds, it's an interim protocol. To bridge funds, you need to send to an EOA and you need to get funds from an EOA. There's no metadata most of the times. So like there is no way to track this on chain. Like everything is in practice off chain. So this is the only case where we use an external API.
Oh, they actually do expose an API for this?
Yep.
Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, maybe with that, do you just want to walk us through maybe the dashboard? Or like maybe what like was there any kind of research goal? I mean, you want to raise awareness, but like, is there anything you wanted to prove or disprove? And maybe like, was that research kind of, or like, did your initial theory kind of play out the way you expected it to, or was there maybe like, I don't know, did something not confirm that you had hoped to find?
The main thing we wanted to have is visibility on how funds are moved. Like we just had no idea at the very beginning because we only track canonical bridges. So we had no idea about the preferences of users when moving assets. There are a lot of conversations that have been involved too, for example, in reducing the challenge period for optimistic rollups. And there are these arguments that no one uses canonical bridges to go back from an optimistic rollup because 7 days is way too much, right? So all the people, like the majority of users, are using different type of bridges. And maybe the only actors using the canonical bridge are the people like rebasing, maybe centralized exchanges or like interim protocols moving liquidity, liquidity providers, right? But in general, like we had no visibility, and we started to track data. So our assumption was that, for example, layer 0 was dominating a lot of cross-chain volume. Turns out this is true, but one project that really surprised us was Relay. This is a project that we were not familiar with at the beginning, but it's like if you look at, for example, the protocols by number of transfers, Relay is like the top one in many of the choices. Even here, right? If you want to move between L2s, like how funds move between optimism and base, right? You may ask yourself. Usually funds move through Interop protocols, and Relay it's very often up top. And this was like a surprising discovery for us. But in general, you know, the main goal that we wanted to have is visibility on user choices, and this visibility would allow us also to prioritize the risk assessments, right? Because ultimately, what we want to do is to show the risks the users have when using these projects. So, and by having this ranking on volume, we would be able to do this, like prioritize the top projects to cover the biggest number of users. So what we do in this dashboard, one of the like opinionated classifications that we do to start the conversation on risks is the distinction between non-minting, lock and mint, and burn and mint protocols. And these, like some protocols, might appear in multiple sections, like layer 0 is both in lock and mint and burn and mint, because it does both. Like in some cases, some tokens do lock in an escrow and then mint a token that becomes omnichain, that burns a mint. And those tokens that then can burn a mint, you know, we would have in this dashboard. And the thing is, like in these three cases, the risks are different, because if you use a non-minting protocol, like a intent protocol, like a cross relay, or like a near intents that we don't support right now, but we will. The idea of this protocol, what they tell you is like, we don't mint tokens. Like we're intent protocols, we have liquidity providers, the tokens are already there. So the risk on us, the counterparty risk that you have on us is very low because we don't mint. Once you get the tokens, it's yours. Which is true with the nuance that if you get the token on the other side, someone had to mint that token. So if it's not the intent protocol, someone else did, which is important, right? The other category that we have is lock and mint, which means you lock some asset in an escrow and then some other token is minted. This is what L2s do, right? You lock your funds on Ethereum and you mint a representation of these assets on the L2. And the property that this token have is that you can escape the bridge risk. Like while you're on the L2, you have the risk of the L2 ranking, like the funds in an escrow being stolen. But whenever you want, or like ideally, if you have an exit window, you can escape and unlock the original tokens, right? And this is, you know, ideally a goodish model because there's always a way for you to exit as long as there are exit windows. If a token is burned and mint, it might be complicated because now the cross-chain provider, which can be layer 0, can be CCAP, can be wormhole, is able to like basically controls all the tokens on all the chains. Like if the bridge is compromised, there is no way for you to exit. There is no escrow. There is no original token that doesn't hold the bridge risk, right? So if you're layer 0 tokens and all the assets are controlled by some entity that is not you, then you depend on this entity, on your assets, which to me is super scary. There are some cases in which this is fine, like CCTP is a bridging protocol controlled by Circle, and it only moves USDC, so it's the same entity as the issuer or the token. So when using CCTP, you don't trust anyone else because they already, like it's the same entity, they already mint the token, right? So this is the like first categorization that kind of touches on risks that we come up with.
Maybe if I may, can I repeat this back to make sure that we all understand and are on the same page? If I do non-minting, essentially I send money to Relay or any other counterparty to an EOA, and they give me money on the other chain, and therefore my risk is very limited because they just give me the money on the other chain. During the execution, I have some risk, like I have the counterparty risk of like essentially if Relay is like a not honest actor, like I send them like 5 million and they just keep the 5 million, then I'm fucked. There's no cryptographic guarantee of like this happening except for maybe the terms of service of like the Relay platform or anything, but like there's no cryptographic kind of idea of like me actually receiving this money. It's just like I trust Relay for that moment.
I thought Luca meant like the counterparty risk is coming from like the market maker, because non-minting means you're swapping, right? Like, so if I'm swapping a token on chain A to token B on chain B, across or Relay basically gives me the token B coming from the market maker address in that chain, and then give my token A to the other like counterparty in this chain, is how I understand it. Like, what are the use cases of non-minting?
So the thing is that it depends. Like, some of these protocols are more trusted than others. All the non-minting protocols need to have a secure bridge, a secure messaging bridge underneath, because what you want to do is to give some guarantees to the liquidity provider that they will get the funds back, right? So if I want to bridge from Ethereum to Base, what I will do is I will send the funds to someone on Ethereum, and someone else, or like ideally the same actor, will send me funds on Base. But the liquidity provider needs to have some guarantees that they will get my funds that I sent on Ethereum. And some of this protocol, like across, they send funds to an escrow first, right? So the liquidity provider needs to have the guarantees that they will get the funds out of this escrow. But how does the escrow know that the liquidity provider fulfilled the intent? You need to have some messaging system. So most of these protocols do use underneath a messaging system. So across works between the L2s, and the messaging bridge that they use is the canonical bridges of the L2s. So this is like pretty secure. And also you have the guarantee that if you as a user that wants to bridge send the asset, but nothing else happens on the other side, since the funds are in an escrow, you can unlock those assets back. With Relay, you're sending funds to an EOA. Like, you fully trust Relay. There is no messaging or whatever. You send funds to an EOA on one chain, you get the funds from an EOA on the other chain. Mayan, for example, is an internet protocol built on Wormhole. Like, here it's Wormhole, which is as a set of guardians or validators that are trusted to relay the correct information. But the thing is, so you have two things that you trust. As a user, you need to be sure that once you send the funds, you get them back on the other side. And as a liquidity provider, you need to have some assurance that if you provide the liquidity, you will get your funds back on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. So it depends. That's why we have this categorization, and that's why we want to have the risk assessments of these projects.
Yeah, that does make sense. And with liquidity provider, I would assume that Relay essentially works with market makers or anyone who's like, I don't know, specialized in this kind of arbitrage trading, the stable coins or like any coins between different chains. And then they can kind of like serve these requests, these intent-based requests. Is that kind of how I would understand that?
I have no idea how Relay works in the backend, because everything is off-chain. Like, on-chain, you see nothing. You send funds to an EOA, you get funds from an EOA. They support so many tokens. So it's probably, like, it's likely that they depend on someone else underneath.
Yeah.
But
I believe they use 0x API. So basically, like, they figure out a swap on the other chain and figure out another swap here.
Yeah, but you get no on-chain assurance of anything.
Yeah. Okay. Personally, a big fan of Relay, but
no, it's good. It's good. Like, a lot of people use Relay because it's the fastest and cheapest of all of them. Like, if you look at our metrics, like, Relay has an average transfer time of 7 seconds. Like, it's across is already pretty fast with 11, but like, Relay is the cheapest and fastest, and they can afford to be the cheapest and fastest because they go through UAs and they don't give you any guarantees on top.
I remember the 7-second number from Dolby's bridge data too. I remember, your new data set were we were looking at like how fast bridges are, and Relay was the fastest.
Relay was up top. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
like Polygon, POS, and Base, like 5 seconds. I remember like some of these tokens go even like 0 seconds sometimes. Like it's
Oh wow.
crazy speeds.
Yeah. Yeah, the bottleneck is essentially like block time.
Yeah, exactly. And then they pretty much trust pre-confirmations of everyone.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of risk they're taking on, but so far I guess it's been working out very well for them. Okay, so that's kind of non-mint. Then lock and mint is just, okay, that's the kind of classic escrow model for L2s where I send money on Ethereum to the canonical base bridge contract. And then on the other side, on the base side, I get my USDC.E. I think that's usually the however you say it, the standard of naming these things. So for these ones, that like the risk is more longer term. It's not just the execution, but rather like I actually get like a escrow token on the other side, and that token then carries the risk of like that escrow essentially kind of like rugging me.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So like as we say here, you have like one-sided risk. Like if you're on one side, on the side where the tokens get minted, you have the risk of the escrow, that someone needs to be secured, that needs to be secured, and like the chain where you are might censor you and whatever. But there are lock and mint bridges that are even outside like Ethereum and the L2s. So for example, one thing that you can do is if you want to, let's say, I don't think I have an example, but let's say maybe this is a good one. So let's say the give token is a native asset on Optimism, right? What you can do is create an escrow on Optimism that locks these tokens and mints the token on Polygon POS. To make it available. And if you want to go back, you need to burn on Polygon POS and unlock on OP Mainnet. And this is the only way that you would have to like bridge the token between the chains, because it's not natively omni-chain. You need to lock it. You cannot mint, right? So like we see in certain cases this happening even between like L2s, for example, for native assets, using stuff like Wormhole, sometimes CCAP. But yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of like non-issuer permission bridging. It's just like I can go and I can create a layer 0 version of some native Optimism token on Polygon.
Yeah. I'll give you a more intuitive one. So USDT has the layer 0 version, which is USDT 0. But all the USDT 0 that are around are minted out of an escrow that is on Ethereum. Like in this escrow on Ethereum, people deposit USDT and you get USDT 0. And then USDT 0, with USDT 0, you can move it like on any other chain with a burn and mint. But if you want, you can go back to the escrow on Ethereum, burn the USDT 0 and get the USDT. And USDT alone doesn't have layer 0 risk, while USDT 0 does have the risk. So this is the property of lock and mint. If you want to escape the bridging risk, you should unlock and get the original tokens back.
And this also on the non-minting side, on the non-minting token, it also depends very much on which token I kind of bridge to. Because like if I want to bridge from, let's say, Ethereum mainnet, USDC has like a native deployment there, but I need USDC on some chain that actually doesn't have a native USDC deployment, and I kind of like get a USDC.E or USDT T0 or whatever, then I'm still kind of like in this lock and mint paradigm where it's like, okay, I need to trust like some, not centralized, but like sometimes it's centralized, but most of the time it's like some kind of decentralized-ish network that kind of like mints these tokens on all of these different chains.
Yeah. So one example, always like also regarding USDT, is that on a lot of chains, USDT is moved using USDT 0. But like if you have a canonical bridge like Base has, why would you have the risk of layer 0 when you're already trusting the canonical bridge for Base, when you're on Base? Like if you're on Base with a layer 0 token, you would have the risk of the canonical bridge still because you're on an L2 plus layer 0. So in fact, what actually happens is that USDT on Base is mainly moved through the canonical bridge because you have it and you can use it.
Given all this data, what would be the bridge you recommend not to use?
Not to use. You're calling out spicy takes, Sheriff.
Yeah, these are the spicy takes. So I will probably be more able to respond to this once we do the risk assessments. I have my opinions, but I need to like double check with objective measures. But in a lot of cases, as this one that I said, there are some objective instances where using one bridge adds you unnecessary risk. Like there is already another bridge that you can use. Sometimes there might be other reasons to do this, like base canonical bridge is slow to go back. So people might want to use another one that, even though it's trusted, it's faster, right? But yeah, as I said, a lot of people don't, since a lot of people don't have visibility on the risks, right? It's also hard for people to decide like what is the correct trade-off. And that's why we want to both show like performance, volume, stuff like this, plus the risk. So you can do like a more, you can have more information and do a better decision.
So as a general rule, I guess for people, what you should have in mind is default to the canonical bridge if it's a chain that has one. In terms of like security measures, this would be number one, then non-minting, then lock and mint, and then burn and mint. Would that be like a good way of thinking about it? And of course, there's tokens that can't be native, that can be transferred through non-minting and therefore need lock and mint or burn and mint. But if possible, use whatever is up above in that list.
Yeah. Like if there is a canonical bridge, like the whole purpose of L2s is to have a secure bridge from Ethereum. Like, so the best way to bridge assets from Ethereum to a rollup is to the thing that rollups were made for, which is the canonical bridge. The real problem is, the real issue is, what if you're not an L2? Like, this is also one thing that we want to explore. So if you go to this page, you will see that we have some coming soon chains. We want to add Binance Chain, we want to add Solana, we want to add Tron, we want to add whatever Alter one is out there, because like we want to show to users how things are moved between those chains that do not have canonical bridges. Like every time you bridge tokens from Ethereum ecosystem to those bridges, you're always trusting someone.
I'm asking a dumb question. Like, what does it mean for a user like me to use a canonical bridge? Like, what's a UI, or like, how do I do it?
So, like, if L2s usually expose a canonical bridge interface in their websites, hopefully, because this is not always true. Like, I remember that if you go to Arbitrum bridge page, they also recommend third-party bridges, which is like what the fuck? Since you have the bridge, but again, everyone has their own trade-offs, right? But the thing is, all these projects, they do implement an arbitrary messaging bridge that allows you to bridge any token. So in principle, if a token is on Ethereum, you can bridge these tokens on an L2 through the canonical bridge. If a token is not on Ethereum, like if you want to bridge BNB to an L2, then that's when things become more complicated.
I mean, I actually don't know how to find the bridge on Base website, so maybe that's one thing they can do.
I'll tell you. You go to L2Bit, you open Base chain, and you click bridge.
Oh, love it.
It's called superbridge.app. That is very unintuitive. Or maybe this is just one of the front ends that they expose for this. I think, like, for what it's worth, all the bridge aggregators, I think jumper.exchange was a big one for a while. they will usually kind of like tell you if this is a feasible way of bridging there, and then you could just manually select that option. But yeah, I think like for users, it's kind of more, or like I feel like the bridge execution, sure, that's like one risk, but it's like very short term. The more like long term risk and like what really compounds over time is probably like I hold some bridged version of like some asset on some chain, and like that's really where I don't know if there has been like quite a few historical cases of like, I think most recently maybe Phantom was like a big one where there was some exploit of some bridge to Phantom or something, and then the USDC on that chain just completely depegged. Maybe Luca, you seem to be familiar. Maybe you can kind of recap that and point out the risks for users.
Yeah. So like this is the problem with when you have a bridge that can mint tokens, because if the bridge is compromised, the tokens are compromised. So that's the main issue, right? And again, as I said before, with non-minting, you might think that it is not an issue, but if it is not a cross or relay that is minting the token on the other chain, someone else is. Like there was this announcement that you can bridge the Stark token to Solana using near intents.
Yeah.
And this should raise like a red flag in your mind, because like near intents cannot mint. Like it's an intent protocol, it's a non-minting protocol. So who is minting the Stark token on Solana? And turns out it's Wormhole. This behind all of this, right? So this is a piece of alpha. I have some like vibe coded front end of one thing that is possible to do with this dataset, which is you could imagine that you have a page where you connect your wallet, and this UI sees all the assets that you hold, and it can tell you whether this token is a minted representation of another asset, how this token got into this chain in the first place, or all the ways that these tokens are, like what bridges this token usually uses to move around. And you could have some kind of assessment of your own like portfolio, of your own wallet, of the things that you are. It's just a matter, like we have all the data already. We have this like huge database of all the transfers and all the things. One thing that we built that I can maybe show you as well that we needed was this like huge database of all tokens on all the chains. Like you can see, for example, ape. This is an abstract token, we call it, which is can have some deployed token associated to it. So you can see, for example, the ape token is on Binance chain, on Ape chain, on Arbitrum, on Ethereum, and so on. And like with these, you can detect.
What do you mean by abstract token? Like what does?
Yeah. So what we do is the abstract stands for, like I'll show you like here at the top. We have USDC. USDC is the abstract concept of USDC, right? But there are many instances of USDC in all the chains, right? So we use the abstract token version to collect the like who is the issuer, who is the symbol, what is the CoinGecko ID, because we take prices from CoinGecko, right? Whether it is a stablecoin or not. And then like under this abstract token, we collect all the deployed tokens everywhere. So like this is the chain abstraction or like token abstraction dream database, if you think about it, right? Because you can unify all the instances of one token under one, what we call abstract token.
That's a very cool concept. I actually need this right now in the project. I'll definitely be a customer.
Yeah, I was gonna.
This is really cool.
Do you intend on making this page public? Because I was checking it out and I see it's.
This is not public, not yet.
Okay, nice.
But if people find it useful, why keep it for ourselves?
Yeah. I think a lot of people would find it useful, analysts especially.
What's next after this one?
So, like as I said, we have a lot of data and a lot of ways to show this. So right now we're doing single path first views where you can only select two projects. One thing that we will add is like, I want to move to any other place, like from Arbitrum to whatever. We want to show you, the stats. initially we wanted to have like all-to-all, but this was a bit confusing, so we removed it, this view, because if you think about it, all-to-all chains is basically a bridge-first view. But if we don't support all the major chains, you would see that, for example, LayerZero has 20% of the volume that it has in total, because maybe most of the volume is between Solana and Binance Chain, right? So we didn't want to upset like these projects by having the all-to-all, because you can put as many disclaimers as you want. Someone will misinterpret the data. So
Of course.
so this is, we want to add more chains, as you said. We want to focus on alter ones. And we want to add like pages, because here there are no pages, you cannot click. So we want to have visibility on all the stats where there is correlation, for example, between transfer size and transfer time. This is something that you might imagine in a cross, right? If you want to do a big intent bridge transaction, it might take you more time to find a liquidity provider with that size. So, and eventually, the most important thing that should come out of this is the risk assessment. And as I said, maybe eventually this wallet-centric view, that would be nice. Another thing that we could do is asset-centric view, where you can search an asset, like say OP token, and you want to see how OP token is being moved between chains and the stats for all of this. As I said, like our database is huge, and we just need to figure out the best way to visualize it.
Yeah.
All right. That was an interesting insight into the world of Interop, and certainly I guess I had like an abstract concept of like the risks that I'm taking when I'm bridging, and the risks that are associated with like holding some kind of coins. Is there any like particular coin where you're like, oh my god, this has like however many millions or billions of deposits and it's so risky? Is there like any concrete example that you would like to point out and warn people about?
Yes, glad you asked. So there is this website that another researcher at Altobit made, which is on LayerZero risks. And he makes an example. I need to find it. I think it's, no, it's statistics. I need to scroll down. Yeah, so this is the graph representing wrapped EtherFi ETH. EtherFi is like this big DeFi project where the stakes ETH and gives you yield. And wrapped EtherFi ETH is a LayerZero token. And this LayerZero token is present on all these chains. And who can mint? And it's a burn and mint token. And like if I focus on BNB, for example, all these red arrows represent on-chain configurations on who can mint this token based on the source chain. So if I come from zkSync, it could be that the configuration says that this multisig can mint. But if I come from Scroll, it could be that another multisig can mint. And if I come from Linear, it's another one. So if you have a token that supports 20 chains, to understand the risk of this token, you should monitor 400 configurations, like 20 times 20 configurations. And these configurations change over time. So you also will need to monitor. So like there are some cases in which understanding the risk of a token is super complicated. There is this example. So most of the validators in this graph is a 2 out of 2 multisig with LayerZero Labs, I think, and Nethermind that are validating the messages. There are some of these paths, like the pink one, where it's a 3 out of 3 with Canary. And what is Canary? Canary is this project that builds validators in a TE, right? And you might say, oh, this is good. Like, I want to have these validators in a TE because it adds security. But the thing is, if this TE is only present in 3 paths, it doesn't add any security, because if any of these arrows fail, the token is rugged, right? And this is like the nuance that we want to bring to the space. And this is like super, super difficult things to track and to understand.
What if any of these chains goes down? Is the whole token already fucked?
I mean, like liveness issues are less of a problem other than safety failures, right? Like if you have a chain that, for example, emits an event that is not supposed to emit, that, for example, some tokens, like 1 trillion tokens were burned here, even though it's not true. Another chain could mint these tokens because what the validators do is basically they monitor for burn events and then they mint on the other side. If there is something that shouldn't happen, if there is a reorg, there is a burn event, and then you reorg, and then it's minted. That would be a big
so liveness is not that much of a problem. But if any of these chains, I think there recently was like a core client issue in Flow, maybe that like Flow actually had an exploit in their core client. Is that true? I don't want to put any fake news into the world.
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends, to be honest. Because liveness would be also that you burn on scroll.
Yeah.
But then morph is down and you never get your tokens. Like, the tokens are burned forever.
Okay.
Right? That's one problem that you could have, I imagine.
Okay, essentially, there's a shit ton of trust assumptions here. Both in terms of, like, there's a lot of multi-sigs. And then the chains that are part of this network also need to be kind of like, they all need to not be exploited and, like, have their security guarantees be intact. And if just one of these nodes fails, then like the entire
one of these arrows, not the nodes. Like there are way more arrows than nodes, and all these arrows are double-sided. So actually, there are 2 arrows for each edge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. If any configuration from one chain is able to pass a not valid message or like a not like malicious message to any of the other chains that are in its configs, then we have a big whoopsie.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I'm so stressed after this episode.
I think. Okay. With that, I think maybe any closing thoughts from Dobby or Denning on this topic.
Obviously, it's great job that you guys published. This was a very opinionated view. I mean, feel like there was a joke in the past, people saying like L2s are building their chain with a L2 beat oriented like method where like whatever the metrics you guys put on the website, they want to achieve those metrics. And I think this is another example of like you basically advocate for what's a better practice and like highlighting the awareness of like all these risks. But yeah, like for me, I don't know, like I don't feel like we need that many L2s. Like how about we just have less and have less risk? Yeah, I am also looking forward to see how
I would say less chains in general, like not necessarily just less.
Okay. Yeah. But also like now that you're expanding beyond L2, you want to include L1 and Solana maybe. Are you going to change your name? Is it going to be L2 Beat?
Yeah, like I made this joke internally that beat.com is available. But yeah, probably costs millions.
Right. Yeah. Also, why did you guys pick the heart? I'm curious. I love it.
So like the story of the L2 Beat name is actually that it comes, like it's a copy of another project because, like a lot of projects that come out lately, they like to call themselves like Wallet Beat or DeFi Beat or whatever, right? Actually, L2 Beat is a steal of another one, which was DeFi Pools. If any of you remember DeFi Pools. Yep. It was one of these like websites that I think is dead today.
Yes.
That was doing some metrics for DeFi. And yeah, like L2 Beat is like DeFi pools, but the pools is the beat and L2s are DeFi. Yeah.
Got it.
Healthy competition.
I have one last thing to say, which is all the code to track all these plugins is open source. You can go on the L2 Beat repo and look at it. A lot of these have heuristics because some of these are like have very nice events that you can match. Some of them have very bad events.
Yeah.
So we will add transfer tables where you will be able to see all the transfers, like singular ones. And we would love, like especially from you guys, if you have some data sets that you build yourself, this would be like a super helpful way to double check whether our data is correct.
Are you saying the dataset will be the correct, or will the code to ingest the dataset?
So we have the code. So the logic to match events is on the L2Bit repo. What we will show eventually, maybe next week even, is like when you open a page, you will see a table that contains all the transfers, like all the constraint transfers one by one. So you can see whether, maybe we're missing something, or maybe we're tracking the wrong tokens in some of them. This happens actually. It happens that we need to fix things. But yeah, like hopefully this will give more confidence that the data is correct, because I'm sure that some dashboards out there just have wrong data. It's very hard to have correct data.
I'll do some cross-checking once I have more data on this as well, and we can see hopefully fix.
All right. Thankfully, the data is not as complicated as prediction markets, where you first need to define the metrics that you're actually talking about. Here, it's like it seems fairly straightforward to just be like, okay, we traded like that many, or like we bridged that much volume. But with that, the sun has gone down for me. It's time to wrap up. Sitting in darkness here. But it's been great to have you on, Luca. Thanks for policing the L2s. Thanks for bringing data availability. No, that sounds wrong. That's like a word that's used otherwise. Thanks for making the data open and accessible and helping us all understand the space a little bit better. Any last things you want to leave us with?
Still bullish on L2s.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting one. I feel like we should have you back in a couple months, weeks to talk about the L2 roadmap in a little bit more in depth.
One plug for AI, which is, I don't know if you guys have seen the blog post from Citrini Research yesterday about like how the intelligence crisis will arrive on 2028. Everybody in Silicon Valley is talking about it. You should go see it. But the article mentioned that in the future, transactions by agents going to happen on Solana and Ethereum layer 2s. So bullish about L2.
It's not going to happen on Solana, or it's going to happen on Solana?
It's going to happen on Solana or Ethereum layer 2s. That's a prediction.
Okay, I see. I mean, yeah, X42 is really interesting. We should maybe get someone on the data for that. But anyways, thanks so much for coming on, Luca. You have listened to the Index podcast. Thanks for listening. Tell a friend to listen to this podcast. join our Telegram group to keep up to date with the chatter of the industry. And see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Crypto data wizards, come join us for the parade. From Bitcoin ETF to Solana meme coin trade, uncovering public secrets in the blockchain shade. Bad chiller, cherry picking liar. We call them out and set chart crime on fire.